Greetings and salutations. So very, very, very good to be with you all once again. I am Dr. J. Gideon Winfrey, licensed therapist, and welcome to season 7 of Sound Mind. I will be completely out of order to not thank, of course, the Most High God to allow us to gather one more time. If you're seeing this and I'm seeing you, that means that we have made it through a hot Georgia summer and we're here. Pandemic is being better managed, still got a way to go, but we're here. So just want to thank God just for his presence and your presence as well. Completely would be out of order to not recognize Dr. E. Dewey Smith, the overseer of the family here at the House of Hope Atlanta, Greater Travelers Rest Baptist Church, and of course, Hope TV. Definitely want to thank Benton Aladdin, the executive producer over Hope TV and Sound Mind. And I want to start the season by saying thank you to the people behind the scenes that you don't even get a chance to see. I want to thank Kyle, T.I., Torrance, and Miss Sarah, my editor in Tennessee. Thank you so much for the job that you all do. If nobody else says thank you and you appreciate it, I appreciate you. And I definitely have to thank my beautiful wife, LaToya. Thank you so much for the support and the love and the covering. My 4 children, Lana, Layla, Jameson, and Gabriel. I love you all. Thank you so much for being the inspiration. I thank God for entrusting you all to me. And thank you all to my church family, to my family, everyone that has just played a role in me getting to this point. Thankful for the DeKalb County area, the DeKalb County school system, just all the people in my home community that contributed to where I am. I want to dedicate this season particularly to a special individual who transitioned while we were transitioning from season 6 to season 7. My high school special education teacher, Miss Sandra Roberts, who really is the core reason why I'm here. So much that she blessed me with when I was struggling to find my footing. She was that mother that I had at Southwest DeKalb High School that would literally take me by my collar and tell me how great I would be and how she just didn't give up on me. And so she transitioned this year, and I wanted to dedicate this season to her and just thank her publicly for what she did for me, because she spoke life into me when a lot of people didn't. So Miss Roberts, thank you so much, and hope I make you proud. Also, I want to recognize my elementary school, especially Miss Diane O'Rado. Thank you so much for your love and support. These are the 2 people in my life that made an amazing impact on me at an early age. And to our educators, I want to say this to you before we even start season 7. Be very mindful of what you say to children. I remember some of the things that were said to me, and because God had packaged my gifts differently, what was seen as oppositional was really just persistence. And I thank God for, out of the 67 teachers that I had 2 that believed in me, and that's all that made a difference. So between Miss Sandra Roberts and Miss Diane O'Rado and my Greater Travelers Rest family, and of course my mother and my father, this is what the end product is. And so just be mindful of the next generation. Just because God packages their gifts differently doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. It just may challenge you to have to make an adjustment in your teaching, in your approach, because who knows, that bad student that you classify could become a doctor one day. God is good. All right, so with that being said, let's dive in. Okay, so with this being season 7, but episode 1, I want to lay out for you all that we're going to be doing this season, because we are going to be hitting on some amazing subject areas, some amazing criteria, and I just want you to buckle up and get ready. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is we're going to be touching on a lot of different mental health dynamics. So this season, I'm going to be addressing narcissism, okay? Pop culture mental health terms, okay? That's going to be a great series. It's probably going to take 2 episodes minimum to really address that, because right now a lot of people are using the term narcissist, and everybody's a narcissist. And a lot of times the truth of the matter is, with social media and content, you all are getting a lot of content, but you're not getting real concrete theory and criteria. And as a 26-year licensed practitioner, I want to be able to give that to you all because I want you to be empowered and educated. And that's what Sound Mind is here for. So I'm going to aggressively address that dynamic in terms of what really a narcissist is, because that's a real breakdown. And I want you to understand, really, when you say that term, you got to really understand why you're saying it. So we're going to be talking about narcissism. We're going to be talking about depression and anxiety. And we're also going to be talking about, of course, relationship dynamics and sharing a lot of the things that have come to me in my 26-year career and all of the hours and hours and hours of therapy that I've done individually with couples and with families, and wanting to bless you all with that content so that you can be blessed and have sound mind and sound theology, okay? So we're going to be addressing those dynamics and really just going to touch on a lot of different criteria. I want to go ahead and let y'all in on a secret for season 8. Word is, now don't tell anybody I told you, because we family, we kinfolk, okay? So don't tell anybody I told you, but the word on the street is, for season 8, we're going to be possibly going to a studio audience type dynamic, okay? So we're looking at having you all actually here, and of course switching up the style and how we do things, and just wanting you all to be actually here in the studio with us and being an active part in the actual filming. We're going to look at expanding as well our platform in terms of having individuals who care to share what their therapeutic experience has been, and even kind of in a Dr. Phil dynamic in terms of having people live on set, that we can do a light consultative therapeutic processing. So you all can see what it looks like and hopefully become even more comfortable with, if you realize that you need it, going to get therapy for yourself, okay? So that's what season 8 could be looking at. So it's not in stone, but we're having some great conversations, and God is just really blessing us to expand what it is that he's given us here at Hope TV. So just giving you all something to look forward to. And just, again, thank you all so much for the support, and thank you all so much for just the blessing. You all are such motivators for me to seek God and ask him what it is that he would have me to do and what it is he would have me to share, so that this gift can be a blessing to you. So please continue to share. And as always, we have a lot of great shows here on Hope TV. So many great shows, so many great hosts. A lot of great content is here. We have Boss Up with Miss Nicole Jones. We have Cooking with KL. We have Worship and Tea. We have Hey Miss Kim. We have financial-based shows. We have a lot of great content here. And in a day in society where a lot of things are based on simple entertainment, we just don't want to educate. I'm sorry, we don't just want to just entertain. We also want to educate and just give you a wide spectrum and variety of things. So please support all the shows here on Hope TV. I forgot, Grown and Sexy. Grown and Sexy is a great show. Single in the City is a great show. No Cap and The Conversation. Just a lot of great shows. If you just want wholesome content, family-based, and of course, promoting God's word in one way or another, you have everything you need here at Hope TV. So thank you so much for the support, and hope that you will share the content as well, okay? So now that we have the housekeeping business taken care of, let's dive straight on in and get started. This is episode 1 of season 7. And this content for today's session is so impactful that we actually have recorded episode 1 and 2 already, but God, you know how he do. God came and said, go back and do that again. I got some more for you. So this is actually a retaping of the first 2 episodes that we did, because we wanted to impact it even more so because of the content. So what this particular episode for episode 1 of season 7 is based on, this show today is going to be based on the psychology of temptation. All right? The psychology of temptation, okay? And y'all know how I do. You know how I get down. I like to always tell you where the motivation and inspiration came from, okay? Because there's so much stuff that God gives me, but it's specifically things that he says, I want you to address this particular dynamic and go and bless my people, okay? So with the psychology of temptation, one of the things that is sometimes the heaviest part of being a therapist is that when people come to me that are involved in situations where unfortunately there's been infidelity. And in those individual sessions and sometimes in those marital and couple sessions, what comes up over and over and over again is the concept of temptation. When something has happened and people have yielded to it, and as a result, it has devastated the foundation of trust and really rocked relationships to their core. And when I went back and looked at my notes and looked back and reviewed some of the content over the years and the literal thousands of hours of therapy that have been done with couples and individuals, God showed me how there's an actual psychology, a paradigm, and a formula for temptation. And one of the things that is very paramount in therapy, and one of the benefits of therapy, is that when you come to therapy, you're able to slow down your life long enough to look at what I call the footage. And what the footage is regarding therapy is looking at all of the things in our history that we have done slowly, long enough to see where are the errors that are occurring, why are they occurring, what are the triggers, what are the stressors. So if we slow it down long enough, we can find where the compromised areas are, and as a result of finding those compromised areas, we're able to make adjustments and make situations better. And with temptation and the psychology behind it, that's very much the same formula that I follow. And so as a result of what God put on my heart and being able to pull it together, I was able to see really what the structure is and how it happens and why it happens. And that's what it is that we want to address in this episode. And this is going to be a 2-episode venue because I really want you to get it. Because I really believe that, same thing I tell my patients in individual therapy, if we can slow down things long enough to see what the origins are, we can identify exactly where it is that we're going wrong, and we can make some behavioral changes, some thought changes, some spiritual changes that can change literally the entire experience that you have in your life and also the quality of your relationships for the better, if you're willing to do the work. So I hope and pray that with this particular subject matter and all of the subject matter that we talk about on Sound Mind, that you're willing to do the work. Because as I tell my patients in therapy, therapy is only as impactful as your truth. And it's only as impactful as the effort that you put into it. As a therapist, I tell my patient population, I will match your energy. So as hard as you go, I'm gonna go just as hard because it is my obligation to see you succeed and to see you at your absolute best because that's what God wants for us, okay? So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in with the psychology of temptation, okay? Now, get your pen, get your pad, and get your popcorn. Because this is going to be good. I've been waiting all summer long to be able to give this to you all in this content because I really want to help you look at why it is that you do the things you do if you feel like it's temptation. Why do we yield to it, okay? So I really want you to get that, all right? So, all right. So you know how I do. You know how I get down. The formula hasn't changed at all. You know my faith in God. I'm a faith-based clinical practitioner, and I make absolutely no apologies about it at all. As I like to say, before I knew Gestalt theory, I knew God. Before I knew cognitive processing theory, I knew Christ. And before I knew hypnosis, I knew the Holy Spirit. And so everything I do is going to be faith-based, and it is the practice of blending the sacred with the secular. And when I blend the two together, it works perfectly for my population. So we're going to give you this information. We're going to give you this clinical content that's going to be heavy on both sides. So no matter what your thing is, we got something for you. So no matter what the flavor is, the good doctor has you, and the good people here at Hope TV and Sound Mind definitely have you in your best interest at heart. Okay?
And so home health care, want to give you some words to share with our community.
Well, home health care meets you where you are, and we care for you where you call home. And we're there to provide the skilled care that you need to get you back to where you're able to do the things you used to do.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Today, I got something special for you. We're gonna be making a southern staple. Now with some sauteed squash and onions. Okay guys, our cabbage is just about done.
Okay, so blending the sacred with the secular in regards to the psychology of temptation. And here's how we're going to do it, okay? The first thing that I want to touch on is the relevance and operational definition, okay? So we kind of touched on that in the aforementioned information that I shared with you all as far as what made this relevant, the psychology of temptation, okay? So we touched on that. And we want to talk about some operational definitions. Now, operational definitions are always critically important because what the operational definition is saying is what is the manner in which we're going to operate. So we want to be certain that when we hear certain words, that we all have a cumulative and agreed upon definition so that we truly understand what's being said and what's being exchanged, okay? So the first thing about temptation, I want to touch on the etymology of temptation. So etymology is just a fancy word for origin, okay? So when you talk about the word temptation, okay, the etymology or the origin of the word temptation is Latin-based, okay? A lot of the English language has Latin or Greek or even German origins, okay? A lot of our language in English does not come from England. It comes from actually other parts of cultures and other parts of society. But when we talk about temptation, our etymology is the Latin word, which is temptor, which is T-E-M-P-T-U-R-E, temptor, okay? Now, here's the unique thing about the word temptation, based upon its Latin origin, word of temptor, okay? Temptor in its Latin origin means to handle, test, or try, okay? That's the Latin origin and definition of the word temptation, to handle, test, or try. So a lot of times what happens in therapy is people will come to me and say they felt bad because they were tempted. And the first thing that I want to address is I want you to understand how temptation works and how it doesn't work, okay? Straight up, point blank. Jesus himself was tempted, okay? So temptation is not necessarily a reflection of your character. The issue with temptation is when we don't handle it effectively. Now remember, the Latin origin of the word temptation, the first definition is handle, okay? When we don't handle temptation is when there is a problem. It's when we're going to have an issue much, much bigger than what it is that we desire, okay? So handle temptation, or the handling of temptation, is one of the first things we have to do when it arises. So because it arises does not make you a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're sin-filled or you're lust-filled. It's just something being presented to you that you have to handle, okay? All right? Now, the second origin word, based on the Latin origin of the word temptation, was test. All temptation is, straight up, is a test. It's a test of your standard. It's a test of your moral. It's a test of your belonging. It's a test. It's a test to see just how dedicated you are to the very thing that you say that you want. How dedicated are you to the very thing that you profess having a loyalty to? So when temptation comes, it's a matter of it testing to see, are you really about that life, as they say in urban terms? Are you really about the business of what it is that you say? If you say, oh, I love my wife, and temptation comes, Temptation is coming to test you and see, okay, do you? Do you love her when she doesn't cook? Do you love it when sometimes she gives you pushback? Or as one of my patients likes to say in therapy, when she talks crazy to you? That's when that temptation to respond a certain way is being tested. You know, can you say you love your husband if you find yourself every time you come home sink filled with dishes? I love my husband, but now you're being tested on how you're going to interact with him based on your frustrations. So that's basically what we talk about when we're talking about temptation. It's a test, okay? It's a test, okay? Now, the third word in regards to the Latin origins of the word temptation, try. I like the word try because try is just, I think, as real as we can be and as real as we can get because, you know, sometimes we say in relaxed environments, you know, where I'm from on the West Coast, oftentimes, you know, when I was growing up, people would say, you know, I wish he would try me. Try me if you want, okay? So when you think of the word temptation, temptation is basically just something that's gonna try you, okay? So when something tries you, it's not a reflection of, again, any inadequacy that you have. It's really more so a reflection of what it is that you profess. So when temptation comes along, understanding that everything that comes together is going to come together in a capacity where you can understand that it's just testing you to see how you handle being tried. So that's temptation. Temptation is testing you to see how you handle being tried, okay? It's not a reflection of you as a bad person, okay? So when we look at these dynamics concerning temptation, it's going to help you to be able to understand what it is and have the mindset that's going to help you to not feel unnecessary guilt, but then also to recognize what you're up against and why you have to be so super solid in what it is that you do, okay? Now, all right. So now that we got the Latin etymology and origins of temptation, I want to touch on the actual definition of temptation. Now, y'all know how I get down. Last season, whenever I gave you a definition, I literally would comb over anywhere from 15 to 40 different definitions to find the one that best spoke to what it was that we would be speaking on in a particular episode. But when I saw this definition, I thought that it was spot on because it really nails what temptation is, okay? And temptation, per definition of what we're going to do in this particular episode, is going to be defined this way. We are going to define temptation as the act of considering or causing to consider doing something wrong or unwise. I'm going to say that again for my people in the back and for the people that just tuned in. The definition for temptation for us in this episode 1, season 7 of the Psychology of Temptation is the act of considering or causing to consider doing something wrong or unwise. Now, I want you to kind of catch the diction and the ebb and flow of the words there in that definition because it really unlocks really what temptation is, okay? When it says the act of considering or causing to consider doing something wrong, temptation in and of itself is not the actual process of wrongdoing. It's the considering or causing, okay? So when you think of temptation, particularly the T-I-O-N part of the word, it's letting you know that it's basically a process. So I say that to say up front in lay terms, straight up and down, you don't just fall into something because you were tempted. If something happened, and this is what I tell couples that have challenges with infidelity or people that, you know, cheat in relationships or other goals that they don't meet because of them yielding to temptation. The reason why it happens is because the process involved, you just didn't pay attention to a lot of the filters and barriers that should have been in place, the fail-safes to keep you from yielding to it, okay? I tell my married couples, you don't just end up with another woman or another man's phone number. Nobody just ends up in your DMs or your inbox. Nobody ends up in a situation where it's a matter of these situations just occurring and you had no idea how it happened. These situations happen because all of the fail-safes that were in place failed Or sometimes we don't even have fail-safes in place, and that's why temptation ends up being an issue, because we end up actually not just considering or causing us to consider doing wrong, we actually do it, okay? So that's important for us to take into consideration when it comes to the act of considering or causing to consider doing something wrong or unwise when it comes to the definition of temptation. I also like on the back end of that definition when it talks about doing something wrong or unwise. Sometimes these things just aren't smart to do. They're just not smart to do. So you got to understand, first of all, what is my concept of right versus wrong? And what is my concept of wise versus unwise, okay? So if you can gather those dynamics, if you can gather those all together, then you'll be able to have a good foundation for what your non-negotiables are. And I want y'all to remember that word, because you're gonna hear that a lot in season 7, non-negotiables. I use that word a lot in therapy. Non-negotiables is just what it sounds like. These are the things that I refuse to compromise on in my life, okay? So if you wanna look at it from a preliminary regard when it comes to temptation, from stopping yourself from even entering into certain dynamics, you wanna be certain that you already have established what your non-negotiables are. What are the things that are right, that you will not negotiate on, and what things are wise, that you will not negotiate on, okay? So that's important from a preliminary dynamic before we even touch any of this other great content that we have. I want you to understand the foundational principles when it comes to temptation. Because if you can get the foundation right, the house you're gonna build is gonna be solid. It's gonna be a beautiful arrangement, a beautiful, solid foundation, because you were able to address the foundational principles right off the bat, okay? All right, so we've touched on the etymology or the origins of temptation, which, remember, we talked about it in its Latin origin, okay? Remember, handle, test, try, all right? We also touched on temptation by definition, the act of considering or causing to consider doing something wrong or unwise. Now I want to touch on temptation occurrences. Where does temptation tend to happen the most? Now, again, taking information from the different patients that I've been able to do therapy with over 26 years, family therapy, couples therapy, marital therapy, individual therapy, group therapy, all of these different forums that I've had the ability to do therapy. Here's where I've seen it happen the most. Temptation occurrences tend to happen the most with personal goals, relationship commitments, and our actions and responses. Those were the 3 most common areas that I saw temptation occurring, okay? Personal goals. Now, when we make personal goals and commitments, oftentimes what happens is we will end up saying how we want something, we want to do something, you know, we want to lose weight, but then we're tempted to get those cookies, okay? We want to lose weight, but we're tempted to get that Publix chicken, okay? So we're able to see the different dynamics of things that we make a personal goal to, and here comes temptation testing us or trying us to see how bad we really want to do it, okay? Our relationship commitments. A lot of times when people think temptation, they go straight to relationship. So our relationship commitments are also an area that we often see temptation surface, and that dynamic as well. And then our actions and responses. Sometimes when people agitate us, we are tempted, just being real, sometimes we're tempted to go off on people. Some people cuss folk out. Some people, you know, want to put people on blast on social media and publicly. Our actions and responses are also areas where we see the temptation occurrences occur. So these are the 3 most common areas where I've seen in my clinical career the temptations tend to occur.
We are picking men's brains today because we're asking men questions that we want to know. Honest answers. Don't get mad at the messengers.
You're changing your looks all the time because you have to keep changing to keep his attention and to keep him from doing it. Then guess what? It's not you, it's the guy.
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey sis,
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug, you know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
One of the things God told me was, and to answer your question about what makes me different, he said, you are going to be authentic. Yes, other coaches will be able to help people, but you're going to be able to do that because of your authenticity of how you went through. And then secondly, what makes me different is I am a prayer warrior. I war for my clients. I intercede for my clients. I pray for my clients.
You've just answered the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of our questions right there. So, we covered again etymology, origins, definition, occurrences, and I gave you the biblical backdrop in the theory, which is based on Matthew 4, verses 1 through 12 about temptation of Jesus, okay? So I wanted us to have that for this particular episode because you're gonna need it for the next episode. So thank you so much for tuning in for episode 1 of season 7. Love you all, thank you for the support. I hope you got this, write it, remix it, share it, because you're gonna need it and it's gonna be a blessing to you, trust me, because it's been a blessing to my patient population. So as we always do at the end, I wanna make certain that you understand the importance of what we're doing and to be able to bless you as we go out. So as we always do about this time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he turn his love and smile and countenance towards you, blessing you in your going outs and your coming ins. And may he also bless you with shalom peace. I am Dr. J. Gideon Winfrey. This has been another episode of Sound Mind, and we will see you for the next episode, which will be a continuation of the psychology of temptation. I love y'all. Be blessed. Take care. Bye.